Season 2, Episode 5 of Strange Brow Radio. My name's Tobe Johnson. Thanks for joining us again. As always, this show is brought to you by The Courageous Woman at Etsy, Feral by Erin. Feral by Erin, E-R-Y-N, Alchemy Sound Tools, and our new sponsor, Metallic Monsters. You thought role-playing just ended at the bedroom? Oh no. Role-playing is all over the place, including the kitchen table. These guys know how to make metallic monsters. And that's what the show's about today. How convenient is that? I'll tell you more in a second. We'll be right back. Season 2, Episode 5. That's just the way it goes sometimes. One episode over won't hurt you. So we just got done doing a virtual conference. I don't know if you heard about it, but you can watch it if you want. It's over at YouTube under Strange Brow Radio. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Hit the alert button. We had a 2-day conference with Ira Wolfnussen of Heart Unafraid, Marcia K. Moore, repatriation artist over at Marcia K. Moore Studios, or CMR Studios, more proper, and Jill Rimmensnyder and Brett Eichenberger over at Residence Pro, the filmmakers and minds behind Flash of Beauty, Bigfoot Revealed, coming out in 2021. So 2 days talking about power spots and hidden histories and forgotten cultures. A lot happened. It was a whirlwind of presentations, PowerPoints, interaction, sealed away kind of in a darkened office in Arlington, Washington. And thank you to Christina Naff and Tommy Naff of kcnbenefits.com, where you can get all your Medicare needs met. If you go check them out online, I'll put a link in the description below. We had a great time, and it was informative. It was exhausting. Some people fell out sooner than others. You know, these conferences take a lot out of you. I mean, not only because it's actually work, but, you know, it's spiritual work, too. It's like psychologically taxing to talk about this stuff. And so Marcia and I slated ourselves to go out to a power spot. Ira was going to join us, but she didn't make it. And we'll get her out, hopefully, to the next one. But Marcia and I have a video up of where we went in the little town of Anacortes, my old stomping grounds, and went to a place I'd never heard of, Mount Erie, and we have a genuine mystery on tape. I'm still trying to figure this one out. This is sort of new for me, but not really. In short, the phenomena or the supernatural or the other, maybe Sasquatch, certainly, probably a power spot, something messed with some digital devices we had, and we were able to track down the weirdness and do a debriefing. So if you go over to the YouTube channel, you can see this also at Facebook. You'll find that the live video, both days, has never before seen, first of all, film footage from Flash of Beauty. That was a big reveal from Jill and Brett. Also, the footage that we shot at Mount Erie and the digital weirdness, and I'll leave it at that. Today's guest is also a part of some digital weirdness, and how would that be? Well, the patrons are aware of a 2-part series I did with someone going by Lisa Lycan, and she is a witness and experiencer to dogmen, dog lady, or she-wolf. And in short, she calls her Blondie. So the experience that Lisa Lycan had as a child dealing with Blondie over the few years that she had with her, and she wasn't the only one that had dealings with Blondie. We wanted to do what we have done with Alex and see if we could take it to the next level with our new sponsors over at metallicmonsters.com. So what you're about to see, because in large part this is going to be purely a visual experience. I really can't release this as a podcast as much as I can just a YouTube video. So that's the way it's going to be on this one here. This won't be released as a podcast. This is specifically a visual experience for you. We have a 3D artist sitting on screen with us, along with Lisa Lycan and myself. And in the same way we worked with Alex, we're going to see if we can reproduce digitally what Lisa has seen with this female Blondie, dog woman creature. And it's a lot to unpack. What I can tell you is that the previous story that we've done with Lisa rings true as completely real and authentic, the same way that I would deal with anybody else who had a testimony about the bizarre. I understand how strange all this is. It's strange for her as well. The patrons were privy to those 2 episodes, the 2-part series on her experience as a child living around these creatures, including Blondie. But I'm releasing this out to you as the public so you can see firsthand what she's seen. Now, our goal was simple. Can we recreate what she's seen in the same beauty that we've done with Alex? However, can we give her a present? Can we actually give her a 3D rendering, print it up in resin or pewter or bronze, and give her a model and have her say, this is what I saw? Now, it was a long shot, and I'm not going to tell you what happened. Maybe it will come out and look like, something off The Simpsons. But, I don't think that's what I'm going to air for you. So we're not going to go there. But it was a fun process, totally groundbreaking. I can't say enough about metallicmonsters.com. If you haven't gone onto the website to see what creatures they've made already, you need to do that. But this is a whole new medium for them, working with witness testimony. It's a new marketplace. We don't really know how yet to offer it to you. However, I will say this. After you're done watching this, I will say some more. And if you're interested in going through this process as well, then we can maybe, most likely, find a way to offer this as a service. But as of now, just check out this video and metallicmonsters.com. Okay, I've been blabbering on for quite a bit. Enough about that. Let's go to our witness here, Lisa Lycan, and the 3D rendering artist who has a very interesting code name himself, and Metallic Monsters and the 3D rendering of Blondie. All right. Thanks for joining me back here at Strange Brow Radio. As promised, back with us is Lisa Lycan and our computer rendering artist, Geaytan Gray. Hello, Geaytan.
Hello.
All right, Lisa, the show is familiar with your story here, but we're going to go into new territory here. And the best way, I think, to do that is to go over some of the particular details of what you remember regarding this dog woman or dog lady or female dog creature. And Geaytan, you're going to be our eyes here as we go into details. So let's just go into it. Lisa, describe for Geaytan, if you can, and Geaytan, make sure that you have, you have full use to ask her questions here if I'm not asking the right questions. But go ahead and start off, Lisa, with exactly what you remember as far as dimensions and this creature being bipedal and how it was bipedal.
Okay. So the only thing as far as bipedal, if we want to talk about maybe a reference as far as height is concerned, when I started to have memories of her, my youngest, I don't know if you saw her on camera earlier. She was the one that came busting in here, asking if she could go play with her friends. But by the time that I started to really have memories of the creature that I refer to as Blondie because of the color of her hair, my daughter was probably about 4 or 5. And I remember when I had one of my close encounters with her, I was probably standing at her waist, which for the reference of like a 5-year-old child, that may have put her at about 5 feet, maybe a little bit over. So she was definitely bipedal. on two legs. I only saw her on all fours at one point, and it was very brief. So, so we can start there. Her legs were straight and Sasquatch legs, so not like a dog's.
Okay.
Okay, so they weren't hawked. And as he's drawing along there, can you see the monitor too, Lisa?
Yes.
Okay, great. So if there's something happens here along the way, you chime in and help him out.
Okay,
And-
so I'm
And
sorry.
one thing I want to point out is kind of the way I'm going to work here is definitely, it's going to be really low fidelity, especially initially. What we'll just look at is the bigger details. So if we zoom in, this this looks horrible, but does it look appropriate from say this far out? Is more of what we're going to look at initially, and then we can zoom in and kind of get a better idea of what more more of the nitty-gritty details that you want to share. But anyway, yeah, carry on.
Even looking at the legs, I want to say that they were, and see that this is what's hard because the memories are coming from the perspective of a child, but from what I remember, her legs were pretty long.
Okay.
So they were long, they were thin, maybe slightly smaller at the hip, but they were definitely thin. That's good. They were thin legs, and she was also kind of shaggy, so it was really kind of hard to see all the details, but definitely they look like thin long legs to me.
Okay. So just going to do a little bit of cleaning here and there when you see me switching angles, but the main angle I think we need to focus on is when we get to this one. So
Okay.
so let's say long angles like that. In relation to the length of her legs, how big do you think her torso was? Was it maybe half the height of her legs, or?
Definitely at least half. I think she was longer limbed and shorter torso.
Okay. As far as these legs go, I have them pretty straight right now. Is there a little bit of probably a natural bend?
Just a slight bend at the knee,
Okay.
from what I remember.
Okay.
And the only views I ever had from her was full frontal and her sides. That was it. I never saw the back of her. Just left side, right side, and front. I never saw her complete back walking away from me ever.
Okay. So a question as far as these feet go, were they kind of human-esque, or was it canine to the degree at the toes?
Okay, I don't remember her toes.
Okay.
I do remember the tops of her feet were sort of rounded in the way that a dog's paw is.
Oh, okay.
So almost sort of like that dome that a dog has.
Right.
But I don't remember any other details. I don't remember nails, and I don't remember any toes, just the tops of the feet.
Okay, we'll kind of put it like that. That'll help me.
Yes, just like that.
Yeah. And when it came back to the heel, I mean, once again, you said you didn't remember too much about the feet, but based off of her physique, did it seem like it was like a human heel, or more kind of like that dog heel where maybe it was kind of thinner?
Unfortunately, I don't really remember much about the heel.
No problem. So, can you see this purple circle here?
Yes.
Is this about where the knee was? Just kind of right there? Okay. Perfect. Up at the heel, up at the hip, is this kind of where the hip was?
Yes.
Okay. And then up towards the torso, does the stomach kind of go in concave, or?
It was real flat.
Okay.
It was just real flat, real uniform. It's kind of flat as a board. Again, I'm very much under the impression that what I was dealing with was probably a juvenile. So I'm sure not everything was developed.
Okay.
But I did tell Tobe, and I've also done a lot of other interviews. At one point, I did notice what looked like underdeveloped breasts on her chest.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Rise of that. But everything else stomach-wise was just flat, you know, like a board.
So let's try this out then. With the arms, are we talking more humanoid arms?
Yes, definitely longer.
And did they come out from the side?
No, they hung just like a humanoid.
Oh, okay. So let's put it back a little more like shoulders of a human.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna, bear with me on some of this transitioning here. As far as her back, what do you have any recollection of what the back seemed like? Were there large, bones back here, like the? Do you remember the details to that, or?
Mm-mm. No, I think that she had, pretty, like the development of shoulders kind of broadening out.
Okay, so the shoulders were broader, maybe more.
But as far as the back itself, like I said, I never saw the back of her.
Okay. So in relation, how far should I bring these shoulders out?
Okay, that's way too far.
Okay, in
more about there. Wait, go out just a little bit more. About there.
Okay, and then up to her neck. Did she have kind of the buff man neck, or was it more thin?
No, it was kind of thin and delicate.
Okay, let's try it. Let's make this a little more delicate. Then. Ladies generally have, kind of a inward shape like that to their necks. We'll try that out for you.
Yeah.
Was her neck longer?
No, I think that was about right. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, we're gonna get to her head, obviously, but as far as her neck, it just seems sort of average and humanoid. I mean, it wasn't the short, stubby neck of like a Sasquatch, and it wasn't overly long.
That makes sense. In relation to the body right now that we've got going, should I increase the size of this head, decrease?
Well, her chest was flatter. Her chest was flatter in, like there was, okay, so you have kind of like the breastbone layout, like right about there. But like I said, there really was the rise. There was a gentle rise of breasts underneath the fur.
Okay, let's go ahead and try and get some of that in there.
Like pretty much just like that, just about that size. It wasn't, and she was covered in fur, so I couldn't see completely just the rise of them. And it looked more like breasts, like like you would see on a preteen developing girl.
Okay. Let's work this in here a little bit. And I'll work this out a little more.
Like that, yeah. And just I don't know if you're planning on going back to the arms, but her arms.
Yeah, definitely. But feel free to describe more of that while I kind of fine tune some of this out. Just make sure I don't lose the shoulders.
I want to say that they probably stopped to like right above the knees, so they were long arms. So her hands would probably touch right about there.
A little bit up, a little bit?
Just slightly a little bit up like that.
Okay.
But yeah, that looks about right from what I remember.
And Geaytan, I'm just completely in awe how quick you're working as an artist. It's really impressive. I thought the process would have gone a lot slower. So I'm taking a step back. You guys are doing great, and I'm just going to watch her.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to get in some kind of little bit more details here to help us zoom in. gonna move her arms probably naturally hang back like you described, more like a human's would have, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, like it was maybe like a slight bend at the elbow. Like I don't ever remember her ever having them straight, but just kind of like that slight, almost. I don't know, for lack of a better term, if this is what's coming to mind. This is just kind of how my mind works. Have you ever seen Nacho Libre, where
Yeah.
when he first gets in the ring and he puffs his chest up and he kind of holds his arms at that slight crook in his elbows?
Okay, I'm trying to remember that.
Yeah, it was during actually I think it was when they were fighting the scene where they're fighting Satan's caveman, which is the midget tag team. He kind of puffs his chest up for a minute, but he holds his arms a certain way where like he kind of almost has that bend in his elbow. I never saw her straighten her arm, but she just kind of almost held them that way with just a bend in her elbow.
So were the palms facing down or upward?
They were down, back, like people do. They were down.
Okay.
And at her sides, but not facing out, just facing back.
Okay, let's try this out here.
Lisa, are you saying that the creature Blondie was kind of holding its position, its body in kind of a cock of the walk kind of way, like I'm the big thing here? You know, you could see that it was imposing.
Yes, when I encountered her, you know, the first, well, I mean, like I said, I really get the feeling that there's probably things I blocked out. I mean, you know, it was a long time ago, but when I first had my first close encounter with her, she cut off my path going into the woods behind my house. So she was almost standing in a defensive posture where it was her right side facing me, and we were probably about at least 2 or 3 feet apart from each other. And she kind of was just looking down her nose at me, and she was kind of looking at me sideways, almost like, okay, kid, what are you going to do? So, you know, and remember there was, as I told you, there was a second creature. The second creature was in the garden, which was much bigger than her, and it was tearing up the plants in the garden. So it almost was as if she was blocking, like trying to block my view from what was going on. But it was definitely a defensive posture.
So let's see here. Just once again, adding a little bit more bone structure to make this accurate, just kind of going over it. With the arms, I'm not, I feel that I'm definitely not, I don't have them yet, based off of what you're describing. So did they come out at this angle? Were they
kind of just like maybe slightly back, like at her shoulders?
More towards her side?
Yeah, like a little bit in towards her side. There you go, and just kind of slightly back.
Okay. Back like this?
Yeah.
Or, okay. Let's go back a little bit.
There you go.
Okay. As far as the bend in her elbows, do I have the right angle? Do I need to?
Yeah, that was pretty much how it was. I mean, you might be able to bring like her forearms back slightly, but that was pretty much. There you go.
Like
that was pretty much how it was. Yeah.
And I will go through right now. Obviously, I'm just mainly trying to get these proportions, but I will go through when we're done with this and put it in the kind of this, try and put it in this tough pose you're talking about, because I, you know, once we get the proportions, I guess creatures, you know, probably change their stance.
Right.
I mean, I imagine she was in a whole bunch of different positions the different times you saw her. Or did you see her more than one time?
Yes, I did.
So I want to make sure I get the top of her chest here correctly. A human is, you know, it kind of comes down a little more like that before it goes up. Does that seem appropriate, that angle?
Okay, so when I noticed this, I had a close encounter with her. She actually grabbed me, and we were laying on the forest floor, and that's when I noticed the rise of breasts.
Okay.
So, you know, so it was really close to her. Like she actually had me in a grip for a while, and I finally had to move because my left side was going numb, And so I moved very carefully, but I put my hand on her stomach, so that's how I knew she ended up having fur, not hair. And noticed the slight rise of her breast underneath the fur. If that answers your question at all.
Okay. Definitely helps kind of give an idea here.
While people are watching you sculpt here too, Geaytan, what is your Instagram handle for people if they want to follow along separately while they're watching this? What's your Instagram handle?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Geaytan Gray, all one word.
And that's spelled how?
Geatan
Mm-hmm.
Gray, Grey, and
Okay.
.art.
Okay.
So GeaytanGray.art.
All right. So for people that want to see the capabilities of our artist here, go check out his Instagram handle at GeaytanGray.art, and there's some teasers of his work here.
And what I'm trying to do right now is, once again, I want to retain exactly as you described it to me, but I'm also just trying to get some of the anatomy in here, make sure I've got like typical patterns as far as where the rib cage is and where this different musculature could go. So
Lisa, as far as the profile here, seeing how upright this creature is, was there any slope to it, like it would be going down on all fours for movement? Would it look like something bipedal that would have its posture facing down more, or was it totally human like that?
When I saw her profile, she stood pretty straight, like I said, except she did kind of she had her arms sort of kind of out. And the one time that I did see her crouch down, she had gone from a laying down position. She was on her back. And it was when she had me pinned to her side, and she pretty much just, it was very lightning quick. She flipped over onto all fours. And when she did that, it was more like the front arms were completely erect, and the back ones were sort of almost in that starting position that a runner will have. But she was kind of crouched on like the tippy toes of her feet, almost like ready to spring. So
Okay.
Go ahead.
Did it seem pretty natural to her to be in that like on all fours position?
Yes.
Or
yeah, she ended up walking away that way from me.
okay, so it didn't seem unnatural at all.
No, she went into 4x4 mode, I guess you could call it, and she ended up walking away into the woods that way.
Okay, so when she went on all fours, did you have that? Was her gait kind of typical of that of like a gorilla, or that of? Okay.
I would say that. It seemed like it was like a protective stance again. So, my sister my older sister had come into the woods calling my name, and I think she heard it before I did, because she let me go. She flipped over onto all fours, like I said, and she growled, but she was standing over me doing this, and she was looking past me towards the direction of my sister's voice. And then I ended up saying to her, "Hey, that's my sister." And as soon as I did that, she stopped growling and just stalked off on all fours into the forest. But not the way like when a gorilla runs fast. I know it's usually both front arms down, and they sort of
sideways or whatever.
Themselves. It wasn't like that at all. She walked away more like a dog would.
Okay. So once again, just dialing in details. Let's go ahead and as far as like the face, what do we need to do to get the face?
Okay, so her face was more humanoid. All right.
Okay.
The snout was very much more like a Boston Terrier or like a pug. It was very short and stubby.
Okay. Let's try and get this a little more. Humans have kind of the forehead here.
Yeah, the ears that you have on this are fine, but they need to go back slightly away from her head.
Okay, let's try
So
that.
more like elf ears, but that shape, that original shape that you had is right. But they were
Okay.
more elf-like, going or cat-like.
Would you describe them kind of as the uh like a Doberman kind of?
Actually, what comes to my mind is a lynx.
Oh,
It had the tufts of hair in the ears.
yeah.
So they weren't they weren't on top of the head. They were on either side of the head like ours, but they were elongated and pointed, going kind of away from her head, like that.
Let me try and I'm actually gonna get the shape right here before I move on. Now I shorten the neck a little bit with this. Is that appropriate?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, I don't remember a whole lot about the neck. Just that it was probably more delicate. It wasn't muscular. I just remember it being kind of delicate.
Okay.
Is that part of the reason here, Lisa, is because of the amount of hair
Yes, I
that
mean
was on it?
she
Okay.
had long hair. I mean it really looked like something the cross between like a Yorkie and a Irish Wolfhound.
Okay. Okay. So some of these details we really don't know just because they're obscured by the length of the hair. Okay. Were there points where the hair was less than and it was like from wear and tear or callousing but you said it was a nubile creature or juvenile, so maybe not.
Trying to
Of course, when they're younger, hair doesn't grow in right away either, so maybe so.
right. Sorry, my cat's outside making all kinds of noise.
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to think if there was any area where it seemed less. I don't know if that's. It seemed like she had more hair on her limbs and less on her torso.
Okay.
Like it was
Okay.
shorter on her torso.
Mhm. And we'll get to those
How is
details too.
that you're feeling? Is that kind of
Yes.
appropriate?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get more on that. The snout and the face here, how is that feeling?
She might have had a little bit of a more narrow chin,
Okay.
but the nose looks about right.
Let's try and get that narrowed. What was it, as long from nose to chin or shorter? Like, should I bring it up?
No, she definitely, but she had almost like that kind of thick sort of upper lip underneath the snout. Was a little bit longer, so it's kind of longer. I don't know. I mean, almost. I guess, for lack of a better term, almost werewolf-like.
Okay.
Some werewolves look sort of humanoid. It just
Right.
is a little bit thicker underneath the nose. I don't even know what you call that part of the lip.
Yeah.
Upper lip.
I'm gonna grab a reference image for myself real quick here on what kind of snout we might.
While you're looking at that, Lisa, what's this like for you as at the process of someone doing a reconstruction here? I know it's in the beginning stages, but what's this like for you?
It's not bad so far. I mean, it's kind of nice to see it come to life in some ways. I think it's sort of frustrating for me because there's certain details that I don't remember.
Right.
It's like I don't know what the back of her looks like because I've never saw her walking away from me and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Am I all right to show images on the on my screen?
Whatever you want.
Okay. So once again, that's just one of the first ones. Is that similar?
No.
Okay.
Kind of like Bram Stoker a little bit. Just that upper lip, like the thickness of his upper lip, is kind of what.
You know what image she's talking about?
I don't.
Yes, Bram Stoker's Dracula. The werewolf that you have.
The more purple one in the center of your screen.
Right there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So she had sort of that thick upper lip thing type going on, but not her nose. Her nose was not like that. Her nose was black, and it really looked like a dog's nose. So it had the black leathery skin on it, or whatever you would call it, like a dog.
So that's really interesting because that like you're saying, this has a lot of those canine features, but
Mm.
that upper lip definitely seems more like, like a primate. So
Yeah.
it's kind of cool to hear that description. Let's see. Make sure we get the correct nose, like you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Or the poor modeling clay industry for movie special effects. I just think about an entire industry being zapped by every mouse click that you make, dude. This is so much better than clay. It's insane.
It
Wow.
is though, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Wow.
Let's see. Okay, so again, I don't want to get too much into the details quite yet, but I mean the face is pretty important. So, does that give? Are there any critiques? Any more critiques? I mean, I'm assuming there's probably plenty, but
That looks about right, except like her chin, I think, was just maybe so like her lower jaw. I think was there. It was a little bit more. You just kind of had it like you went down a little bit. There you go. Because it was more almost V-like, but it was definitely sort of heavy.
oh, it was pretty heavy.
Yeah.
So maybe a little more down like that.
Yes, like that.
Would you pull it out more that way or back?
Nope.
Okay.
Just, yeah, kind of right in the middle like that.
And then
and for that reason, because she had that point, it was real hard for me to remember the details of the neck because it was almost like that would shadow her neck.
ah, interesting. Does that look correct front on?
Yeah, her mouth might have been a little longer.
Okay. So back here.
Yeah.
That's horrifying. It's a big mouth. Okay. Oops. Am I getting the right look? Was it almost kind of a natural smile, or should we downturn it a little?
No, she looked pretty serious.
Okay.
Like, but here and this is the thing because like it seemed like her mouth was bigger at one point, and I told this I saw her teeth. So she had a mouthful of jagged teeth.
Okay.
At one point, she showed her teeth, which I'm pretty much sure that it was an aggression towards me and another child,
Okay.
or where it almost like she was it looked like almost like a dog smile, for lack of a better term, but it just seemed like it was just a mouthful of teeth.
Did her lips fully cover her teeth, or?
Yes,
Okay.
but remember, she also, she had fur on her face. It wasn't as thick as everywhere else, but everything was covered except like the black of her nose. So everything was kind of covered, but I just remember like a thin line of where her lips should be, and that it just seemed longer. Then again, like I said, the incident where she showed her teeth, it just seemed like she had a pretty large mouth.
Okay. Let's try and bring these together a little bit. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's zoom out a little bit. We'll come back down here to kind of what we've got with the forearms. You did say that there was a lot of fur towards the arms.
The legs and the arms seem to have a lot more fur than
the
body.
Okay. Was it kind of to the degree of like where it was almost like hanging off, like longer? Okay.
Yeah. Not extremely long, but I don't know. I think my guess would maybe be about 2 to 3 inches.
Okay.
And did you say a wolf, or what was the dogs that you said it was a combo of?
It reminds me now of like a like a cross between a Yorkie and Irish Wolfhound.
Right, an
Like,
Irish
Coarse hair.
wolfhound would have really big, coarse hair, right?
yeah. Well, I remember it being coarse and really oily.
Okay, gotcha. And as far as musculature, this, even though it seemed like it might have been a juvenile, did it look like it was nothing but toned, ripped, muscle?
From what I could remember, yes. But
Hmm.
like I said, I also remembered. I mean, she grabbed me so fast that I think I actually blacked out and came to on the ground next to her. And I mean, it was
Wow.
extremely quick, so she obviously was pretty strong. But
Hmm.
she ended up patting me on the head before she did that, which was very strange. And I remember my teeth clicking, and then she just grabbed me.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. That's quite the detail. So it
Mhm.
reached over, pat you on the head, like, "Hey, good kid,"
Yeah.
and then you remember your teeth clicking.
Yep.
Wow.
Are the hands on her looking too small, too big?
They looked okay. See, they looked mid-light, like from what I remember. I don't ever remember fingers, but they were probably there.
Okay.
I just remember them just really kind of being more mid-like from my vantage point.
Okay. I imagine the fur probably obscured that as well. It sounds
Yes,
like.
I do remember claws. I do remember when she reached out, seeing some brown claws that was definitely sticking out from the fur.
Um, one of the easiest things to get caught up in details on is definitely little like hands and stuff. So I won't go into too much detail right here. You can save some of that for other places. But just to make sure I get the idea correct, I'm gonna throw in some stuff. Did they feel like, did she have like an opposable thumb?
Not that I remember.
Okay, we'll try this out then, because I know that canines have, seems like they have like the part right there, and then some of this up a little bit.
Okay, detailing the hands here. And so, Geaytan, you're putting the thumb for now back along the forearm where you would maybe find it a little bit on a regular canine, right?
Yeah, so
Okay.
as far as my memory, I'm gonna double check some reference, but
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure like up further, what we view as kind of the wrist area, there's
Hmm.
actually, where the
Right, the pad or the hock.
yeah, exactly,
Right.
the pad goes back to. So I imagine if we're following kind of the anatomy of the
Sure.
canine on the arms here.
What about the bicep areas, Lisa? What were those like? Did you see just more hair as it went up, so it was just as thick as the forearm?
Yes, from what I remember.
So up here, you're saying it was just as
Yeah,
thick?
maybe. Yeah, maybe slightly, like slightly shorter.
So the forearms were a little bit longer than the bicep areas. Okay,
Because
but
some,
just as thick.
am I getting too little too thick on the arms to the body?
Well, I mean, her head was a little bit bigger, but
Her head was?
yeah,
Okay.
but
So it's that.
probably yeah. Let me see without the.
Okay, yeah.
That looks right.
Okay.
That looks right.
Right, just having one proportion off can really
Yeah, really.
change everything.
You're right. It really does a lot.
Mhm.
I think with the head like that, you have the neck muscles that have come up to support it. Then I imagine to keep with what you're saying, how the stomach was pretty flat. I want to bring this out a little bit.
How about the width of the shoulders there, Lisa? That looks pretty human-like as far as when I think of human shoulders.
Right.
Were they
I mean,
that
she really, I mean,
human-like?
there were definitely some, yeah, there were some
Yeah.
attributes about her that seemed very human-like.
Mm-hmm. Because it's difficult seeing that image, imagining something wanting to move on four legs. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I only ever saw her once on four legs. And again, I mean, if she was a juvenile, then
right.
it's really hard to know
Mm-hmm.
what the rest. I mean, the adult, like I said, the adult creature that I saw her with, I just never saw its head, definitely had broader shoulders. I mean, we could assume that that was a relative of some sort. Definitely had broader shoulders and a bigger back. But
Okay.
that was all that I remembered
Mm-hmm.
about
I think, yeah, I think based off what you're saying, since you didn't see the back, it might be safe to assume that she probably had some pretty strong muscles back here.
probably.
If I get a little bit there, more going on. More dip here at the sacrum.
Mm-hmm. And going to the back there, I forget whether or not you saw the presence of a tail.
No, did not
No
see a
tail.
tail.
Okay.
I never saw one. I mean, I can't answer that question. I never saw one to confirm or deny a tail.
Okay. And that goes for the other one as well, that was off in the distance?
There was not a tail on that one either.
Okay.
I did see that one's back. Like I said, I saw that one moving through, and it was pretty thick. I did see the buttocks, did see the back of the legs, did see a broad back.
Okay. As far as the details of looking back here, I know it's going to be difficult to do, but the human quality here mixed with a hybrid of being a canine, did you get any sense, and I'm asking you to do a lot here, did you get any sense that this was human at one time and that there was human trapped inside a canine, like a shapeshifter or a skinwalker type?
Well, no, I really just thought she was a monster. I mean, like I said, I mean, it was, back in the 70s, and the Muppet Show was on, and Sesame Street was on, and I grew up watching those. And so my first initial thought, the first time I saw her when she blocked my path, was, I'm looking at a monster. Okay, I've seen these on TV. That was really the only thought that I had about her. If that makes sense,
Yeah.
What she could be now, I really don't know. I'm still very confused by it. I've heard, definitely don't think she was a Sasquatch. I mean, I've seen those. Definitely not a Sasquatch, but I've heard, type 3 dogman. I've even heard Gugway as a possibility because of this being, up north where I saw her. I just don't know. I don't have any concrete evidence either way on what she in fact was.
Okay. And looking at the drawing here, what's jumping out that needs to be addressed? Is there anything in that particular shot right there you're looking at that you think, well, we have to address this being off?
Not really. The only thing that I'm thinking about, because so like the frontal view that you gave me, she had longer hair around the genitals. So I mean, there definitely was, the typical longer hair just covering that. I kind of feel like her upper ribs might have been a little bit thicker.
Yeah.
Like I think there was more muscle even at a young age for her there. I just remember because like I said, I was pinned up against her side, and it felt like a rock. I mean, she was rock hard. Even, she had her arm around me, pinning me to her side. So I do remember being in that grip and just definitely feeling the rock hardness of her arm around me. Not, which is weird because I don't remember any hand, but I think I was just laying in a position where I was too scared to move and really take in too many details. And the only reason why I moved eventually was because I was in so much pain from being locked onto my my left side that I had to get comfortable. So I just tried to stay as still as possible.
So I'm just,
Definitely remember the hardness of her body. Everything was hard as a rock.
And
so,
not that, go ahead, Geaytan, you go ahead.
oh, I was just, so I'm kind of going in here trying to make sure I get a little bit of this, you know, the right idea of the fur here with volume. Am I laying it on too heavy? Do I need to put a little more on? Like, did the shoulders have fur coming off?
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't, okay, so it was thinner probably around the tops of the shoulders and probably thinner around the neck, thinner on the face. I do think, if I remember correctly, there was a little bit more kind of at the back of the head coming down the back of the neck. The hair was a little thicker, almost mane-like.
Okay.
But not on the front, not, the front of the torso was thinner, but there's just certain places where it was a little bit thicker, and then just, some places where it was thinner.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that that's kind of a pattern that you see in animals too. So I guess that makes sense. As far as how far down the top of the head did this mane start?
I kind of had like tufts of hair on the top of the head.
Okay, so it wasn't too strong up at the very top. Okay.
No, it just sort of was spiky looking, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Oh, okay. Try and put a little bit of that there.
Mm-hmm. And how are the proportions on the ears, Lisa? Were they substantial like that?
It's perfect. It's just she did have tufts of hair, like the way that a cat does. There were tufts of hair that were like at the top of the earlobe.
Oh,
that kind of became a little bit too.
Mm-hmm.
Like the inner ear, not like the inner ear, just almost like a cat.
Cat house. Trying to think. That's another one we have to reference. Make sure I get it right.
Yeah, and looking at the profile there, Lisa, is it jogging things for you to look at a picture like this? Are you remembering things, or is it still seem so far away?
Not as far as like jogging anything new. No. It really, I think the only thing, her thighs may have been slightly thicker.
Okay.
As the side. Just I think there might have been a little bit more muscle in her thighs, but like her lower legs were a little, straighter. Again, it was, the hair was longer on the lower legs, from what I remember.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let me try and slam that in there.
But it just seems like her thighs were kind of thicker.
While you're working there, Geaytan, the layering of the hair here, it's mirroring on each side as you're drying along here too. So are you using a hair application right now in order to do this, or are you just texturing this by hand with a certain brush, or how does this work?
Yeah, so I have a brush that one of my favorite brushes to use. It gives, kind of sharp, hard angles, and I personally like it for capturing that hair feel. One of the hard things with sculpting is hair is defined in reality with very small, micro thin things, and you just can't realistically do that with sculpting. So you have to capture that same feel with volumes, and this brush I feel captures that pretty well. So what I'm doing to answer your question is I have the symmetry on, and it just speeds up the workflow. Luckily, most creatures are pretty symmetrical from one side to the other. So as I'm sculpting along using this brush, it's just applying that same pattern to the other side. So I've got that kind of typical thickness that you'll get with humans. Like you have the bum that's the first curve, and then down here you've got the thigh that curves out a little bit, depending on the musculature of the person, of course. Does that seem a little more appropriate with that thicker leg?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then this calf muscle, do I need to?
Right. It just seemed like they were real straight.
Okay. And then as far as the fur on the legs, do we have more kind of coming out towards the back?
Mm-hmm.
Or was it shag?
It was all around. It was
Okay.
all around. So like from the top of the knee down was thicker.
Okay.
All the way around.
Okay, let's try and pattern in some of this and see if we can get the volume up to where you remembered it. Bring it out.
While he's drawing, was there an odor? Was there any odor that was jogs your memory?
Yeah, I didn't notice it until later. And it was only after the close encounter, the real close encounter I had with her. My sister noticed it first. I didn't even notice it. It really was very pungent, kind of stinky. I mean, it was, I don't know, it smelled like garbage pretty much.
Okay.
Kind of like a garbage baby diaper urine type animal smell. I mean, almost like that musky smell that you get at the zoo was sort of combined in there. But like I said, I smelled it slightly when we were laying on the ground, but I also mostly just smelled leaf litter and dirt. And then once I ended up running away from her and was back with my sister, she noticed it. She told me that I stunk really bad, and she was like, what did you get into? And of course, I had no way of explaining. And then later that night, my mother gave me a bath, and I remember really being able to smell it on myself. And I think it took a few days to get out of my skin, but it was definitely very distinct. I've smelled that odor since then. I smelled it a few times in Vermont, which is my home state, possibly a few other places. It's just a very distinct smell. But it's mostly just smells like garbage, like the way that a dumpster smells on a hot summer day. Very similar.
Okay, so at no point did you smell what a typical dog oily hair smell?
Like a wet dog smell? No.
Right.
No. And I don't know. I've had it suggested to me that she may have emanated some kind of musk when she got scared or startled by my sister's presence, and which might be the reason why I didn't smell anything at first. But her coat felt oily.
Gother. Okay.
Or whatever it was.
Now I'm kind of detailing in, trying to get that mane. Does this seem right? How it was?
Yeah, there were like small tufts of hair again, like the on the top of the shoulders, going down the tops of the arms was also just sort of spiky in a way, like the top of her head, or bristly. And again, it's hard for me to know if it was some sort of reaction like animals have when, like, their
right, the hackles go up.
There were times when it looked like that, and there were also times when she looked really well groomed. I mean, okay, so I saw her at least, I want to say at least 3 or 4 times. So there were just times when it seemed like it was sort of flat and groomed, and other times it just seemed like it was sort of puffy and hackle-like.
Okay, so there's a good chance that it could have.
Definitely when she was on all fours, she was puffed out. I mean, it was a reaction that she had.
Okay, we're gonna
She was
try and
definitely puffed out. Her eyes, the pupils were completely dilated and made her eyes look black.
and try and capture that a little bit for you.
Which would make sense if it was a protective stance, or if it was an alpha stance, let's say. There's even stories, and this will maybe reach you more, Lisa, than it will Geaytan, is talking to Doug Hychek. I interviewed the producer and founder of Monster Quest, and he was talking about reviewing the Patterson-Gimlin footage, and that underneath the original footage, or the second to the original 1967 footage, that you can actually see Patty's hackles raise as she turns her head, and the hairs bristle, which I'd never heard before. But that goes to, you know, what you were saying here, is the hair would influx emotionally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you had a chance yet, Lisa, to reach out to other witnesses of Dogman and other witnesses? Are you a part of a network of people that have seen them on an extended point like you?
Yes, I have. And you know, of course, I've seen the K9 version 2, which is different than this, and I've only spoken to, I think, 2 other people that have seen exactly what we're working on right now, to my knowledge. But again, there's been a lot of confusion with people calling this a type 3, and then comparing the type 3 to the Beast of 7 Shoots. She didn't look like that to me. The Beast of 7 Shoots, if you're familiar with it, looks like a baboon, and she did not look baboon-like at all. So I've spoken with an eyewitness from Arkansas, or at least she had her encounter in Arkansas. I'm not really sure if that's where she's from. She was camping with her husband and I think her brother-in-law, somewhere in Arkansas, and a creature came up to their RV and started shaking it, and she got a really good look at it. She actually did, she did some digital art on what it looked like. And the first time I saw it, my blood, I mean, chilled. It looks, you know, it looks like her. It looks like what Blondie looked like. Same color. She drew it with red eyes, same shape of the ears, same shape of the face. And I reached out to her, and she had told me that she felt like she did a really poor job of drawing it. But in my opinion, she nailed what the face looked like. And so we compared notes on that. And then I had spoken to a guy in Montana who told me that he had what he called a Wendigo encounter. And he described the teeth as being all jagged, and this thing pretty much grinning at him from the tree line as he was sledding. And the way that he described the teeth sounds exactly like the kind of teeth that I saw. So I exchanged notes with him and described Blondie to him, and he was convinced that what I saw was a Gugway, or I guess they also refer to them as Wendigos in that part of the country too.
Right, right. And these are Native American terms, right, for
Yes.
something similar to a
Right.
skinwalker, or
right, which I don't think that's what was going on here. All I know is you know, she was definitely solid. So I don't know what that means. I've heard so many different things over the years. I've heard theories of things being flesh and bone and not flesh and blood, whatever that's supposed to mean. You know, just this being some kind of misidentified animal, it being something of a more demonic, sinister nature. You know, I don't know. I do know that, you know, I didn't feel afraid of her until the incident in the playhouse where she had me and this other little girl trapped, and then I was afraid of her. And then I was definitely afraid of her when she had me pinned to her side. I was absolutely afraid of her, and the biggest thought that was running through my head was I would never see my mother again. You know, that I was going to get carried off and nobody would know what happened to me.
right.
So definitely was afraid of her then. And I think it definitely was starting to register in my mind that this was a bad situation. And, you know, that I really didn't understand what I was dealing with, obviously. So that was kind of how it is. But as far as sensing her as being something bad, I didn't have a sense like that. I just had a sense more for being something dangerous to me.
Gotcha.
More like a feeling
Okay.
of predator and prey, I think.
Right. The capability to do great harm looks like it's all throughout this drawing. As far as the biceps and the upper arms concerned, was there hair flowing down to the elbows?
Yeah, it was more inner. It was more like so it was the inner bicep, or like if she held her arm out, you know, almost she'd have like some hair
kind of hanging down almost in this area.
Yeah.
That also seems very appropriate. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then a little more.
Yeah, and all that hair placement there, just looking at the way it's flowing off of our drawing here, looks like something that would be going down on all fours. It would just look very strange when it did it. Did it have a presence that it looked?
She looked massive. I
Yeah.
mean, okay, so and this is still something that really does, it bothers me, and honestly, this is to me the most traumatizing of like that whole experience, because it's so disturbing, because I don't know what was really going through her head, obviously. So we went from when she grabbed me, we were sitting down facing each other. I was sitting cross-legged, and she was trying to mimic me. And then and we were really close. We were like inches apart, and she grabbed me, had me pinned to her side, was making all kinds of vocalizations. And when I moved to get more comfortable, I started talking to her like I would my dog at home and my pets, and I was saying, okay, it's okay, and kind of a voice like that, and got a really good look at her eyes, and they were very, nocturnal eyes, very dark, and she just kind of stopped making noise, and we were looking into each other's eyes. And I put my head like right below where her breast would be, so right on top of like her solar plexus. That's where I put my hand. And when I did that, she bristled. So she bristled, and all the hair kind of stood up for a minute. And then she decided, it was almost like she was like, okay, I'm okay with this, And then she turned her face away from me and just started with the racket again. And she was kind of sort of playful. She was like running her feet through the leaves and just talking. That's the only way I can describe it. It was just a vocalization that was just coming out. And she was just making all kinds of noise and just chattering on. And I'm laying there, pretty much in shock. And then she dropped me. It was pretty much like within a few, maybe 30 seconds of that, of us relaxing again and her carrying on. She dropped her hold on me and like flipped over. And when she did, her front arms were straight out, and her chest was puffed out, and she was kind of, big, like her knuckles were out, and the growl came from her chest, not her throat. So this rumble emanated out of her chest, and it was so deep that it was like her whole body kind of vibrated when she made the noise.
Wow.
And so it was like she went from kind of sweet and playful to instant killer, and I mean within a few seconds.
Mm-hmm. And for you, Geaytan, is this the first time you've done something like this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess there's comparisons you can draw to, I've had clients that, they want me to create a new creature and they don't exactly know what it is. But the distinction here is definitely that there's something very specific. As opposed to, with those clients, generally they're like, throw your flavor in there.
Right.
This, this is very different in that there is something that exists. And
yeah, and you're picking up on what I'm picking up on, which is this earnest tone of a witness description over an event.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, you're going to stretch new muscles if we continue on with this here. But now it has that kind of wicked canine smile there, Lisa. Is that something that was present?
Yeah, she only did it when she had us in the playhouse. And like I said, I still don't know if it was aggression. I don't know if it almost seemed like enjoyment, is for lack of a better term. Like she was enjoying scaring us.
Do you remember any prominence to the cheekbones? Was there any?
No.
Was it more like that? Okay.
No. Her eyes kind of seemed big. I mean, they were almond shaped like a human's. I mean, that was one of the things that was disturbing about her, because her eyes at times really looked human, and they really looked like they had human intelligence. And then, I mean, she was just this fine line between almost looking like she could be peaceful and fine and kind of shy to an absolute killer. I mean, there just seemed to be one extreme or the other with her.
Do I have too prominent of a brow on her, or is it all right?
Well, her head wasn't that lumpy, unless I know this was probably
Okay.
you know.
No, yeah. Say what
it was a little bit conical. I mean, that was
Okay.
interesting. That was so there was sort of like a fine crest in the center, just a real fine one though. And I don't know if that was something that would have changed maybe with age.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't know. Tob, I'm probably gonna find that picture. Because I don't know if you can send.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be so.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
If you want to, what you can do, Lisa, is I'll talk to Geaytan here for a second, and then why don't you message it to me, and then I'll send it to your Instagram page from Facebook Messenger, and then if we can work that in on the show, we'll do it. If not, we'll work it on after. As far as the proportions of the head, Lisa,
That's right.
That's right.
Oh yeah, definitely. The proportions are definitely right.
Okay.
I think her mouth was a little bit more serious. You still have kind of that smile.
Yep. Okay.
So it wasn't really a smile. It was just sort of like real stern, like a stern sort of rigid line, like that.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
What a difference that makes.
That is much more sinister right there.
Yeah. She was kind of.
Let's try and bring her. I really want to capture that lip that you kind of mentioned.
Were there whiskers?
She had that indentation. I mean, there wasn't that much hair there, so she had that sort of dog indentation that they have.
Oh, right. The lip center that goes up to the nose, kind of.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm
that.
Yes, she did have that.
Okay. And how about whiskers, like canine whiskers? Were there any evidence of long whiskers?
Not that I remember.
Okay.
Not that I remember.
Okay. Interesting.
So I'm trying to bring out this upper lip. Tell me if I'm overdoing it, because you said it was pretty prominent. I want to make sure I do it justice.
Okay.
Is this too much? Maybe back it off a little.
Of her upper lip?
Yeah, the upper lip.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
Okay.
'Cause now you're getting an appreciation for what's underneath that lip, which would be these crazy teeth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's a hard one too. I've had people tell me that if she was a juvenile, it's possible that those were milk teeth. I've never agreed with that because when she showed her teeth were clenched, and
gotcha.
They looked like a zigzag. The only way I can describe it is like a zigzag, like Charlie Brown's zigzag on his shirt. They were a perfect zigzag. I don't remember any prominent canines. I just remember, well, I think there were two top prominent canines from what I remember, but everything in her mouth looked sharp and bad and deadly. But yeah, like she didn't open up her mouth she didn't open it up, like show her mouth in any aggression, nothing.
It's only like ever that. Sorry, go ahead.
It was just clenched teeth. And just like a grimace, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah. Let's actually try and capture that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean it gets in. I just go into a trance here instead of doing an interview, because it is so mesmerizing to watch this unfold here.
I'm gonna bring the jaw down a little bit, and then once we bring that jaw down, it should give us some room to put in that grimace you're talking about. I want to make sure the thin straight on, is it coming at the correct, you said a V, is that kind of the correct?
The chin was, so I'm about to send.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
this
All right,
picture. So this is,
I'm gonna stand by here for you to send that to me, and then I'll take a look and send it over.
so what I'm sending to you looks like, to me, it honestly looks like what she would have looked like as an adult. Okay. So you're going to see a wider, thicker face, but it's extremely similar.
Okay.
So I just sent it to you.
All right, now I sent it to you, Geaytan. So I've seen this picture before too,
Yeah.
and yeah, interesting.
The
Okay.
lady that did it, this is her version of it, but then she did another one that's a lot more terrifying. So she wasn't happy with this, but it really, like, the color of the hair is perfect. That's exactly the color of my creature. The shape of the ears is perfect. The point of the chin is perfect. Only the difference is, like, you know, her nose was black and dog-like, but the lady that I spoke with, her name was Pam. Unfortunately, I don't remember her last name. But she sent me later a revised digital copy, and what she sent was absolutely terrifying compared to this.
So in this picture here too, it seems to, I mean, you don't see the 3D imaging, but it seems as though it has a flatter human-like face. Like we have a smile captured, you know, kind of on the front of our face. Did it have like a front face without the canine muzzle and the smile going around it?
The eyes that looked human, but they were shaped like these.
Okay.
And then her face, I mean, her face was maybe slightly thinner. So you're probably right about the cheekbones. They need to be maybe slightly thinner, but extremely, the ears, like I said, the ears, that brow ridge, to me, like when I first saw this, my blood went cold because it was so similar, but this almost looks like it, like, I mean, hers was an adult. You know, she said there's a way it could have been an adult. She said it was massive. But the eyes, the ears, the color is the same.
Gotcha. Okay, and just to describe a little bit what we're looking at, I'm sure if I were to post this up, other people would recognize this here, and the red eyes against the blonde hair are pretty striking. But then I get an appreciation in here, and this is what you're describing to Geaytan, was the tuft of hair coming off of the inner part of the ear, which is an interesting detail. I mean, it's a realistic image, especially if you're working, you know, as a taxidermist, to add those little bits of realism to your piece. So that's really interesting.
Right. So her eyes were a little bigger than that.
Oh, bigger? Okay.
Yeah, they were almond shaped, but they were bigger. And so I don't know if this was, again, if she was a juvenile, I don't know if this was one of those features where it would have changed with age.
Right. Yeah.
But I just remember that was one of the biggest things about her. So when she was calm, they really seemed sort of human-like. Like, you know, they were big brown eyes. You could see the cornea. But when she went into killer mode, it was like her eyes dilated and they just went black.
Yeah. So that does seem like a really good indicator that if her eyes were this big compared to her body, that.
Right,
You know.
right. Well, yeah, unless it was just a adaptation for being nocturnal.
Oh.
What did you ever see this particular one, Lisa, at night?
Well, I had things going on in my house where. Okay, sorry, let's talk to my daughter. I think she's with them, but I don't know where they are. Okay. Sorry, I was just checking to see if my youngest came back from playing with her friends. Anyway, there was something that was coming to my window that had large red eyes. And sometimes it was more than one. I can only assume that it was her and others with her. And they looked nocturnally. I mean, they almost looked sort of large and round in a way.
Okay.
Which is really strange, but that's kind of how they appeared. And I don't know if it was almost like, you know, like curiosity, like if there was emotion in the eyes, they were just sort of wide and curious, you know, looking in.
Right. This is getting really crazy here with the insertion of the eyes.
It always helps.
Yeah, my mind is being blown with every keystroke here. I mean, I'll be happy if it looks like, you know, what we're trying to accomplish here for you, Lisa, but this is still super cool to watch.
So as far as the size, the proportion of the eye here, is that, let me mirror this across for you to help out.
Yeah, that looks pretty good.
Forget about the lower part, half of the face for a second.
Okay, so now that we're looking at the eyes,
Mm-hmm.
I think her cheekbones need to be a little bit thinner.
Okay. Yeah, that is the
which is kind of
helpful
weird
thing to see
because
there.
some of my memories, she almost looked feminine in some ways, in a humanoid way, with like just with that detail.
You know, it's
Gotcha.
it's really cool that you have these specific details laid out so well.
I've been talking about this for 6 years. That's so I've been able to recall more and more because I have done several interviews. I've been a big part of the community. I have my own Facebook community. I have sat down in person with a lot of eyewitnesses and have compared notes. So I've been able to talk about her quite a bit.
Okay.
So I've been able to recall a lot of things, but there's, like I said, there's things that I don't remember that do frustrate me. Like I wonder, you know, I feel like there's missing pieces possibly between interactions with her, just because there's things that don't make sense to me. Because like I told you when I told you my story, Tobe, I went from her hiding behind a tree and seeing her eye through the V of a tree to her cutting me off walking up the path. So I almost feel like there should have been more instances, you know, between that time and her making, you know, keeping herself hidden than her just showing herself to me, you know.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if there's things that are missing, but you know, I'm really okay with not remembering everything. I don't well, because I mean, you know, when I first came out about this 6 years ago, it was on Vic Cundiff's show, and I was a mess for 3 months. I had nightmares. I couldn't think straight. You know, I felt sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
I was extremely jumpy. I mean, you want to talk about being an overprotective parent. I really have been because of those things, especially when I'm in or near the woods, which is crazy because this happened in just a suburban neighborhood, but I still get really, really jumpy and kind of overprotective of my kids at times. I mean, they're older now, but when they were little, if we would go anywhere and we were anywhere near trees, if I couldn't see them, I would just freak out. And a lot of that had to do with what happened to me. So it definitely left an effect on me. I had nightmares for years as a kid about her and her teeth that I remember. They were very vivid dreams. So it definitely left an impact an impact on me for sure.
Hey Lisa, on the facial features here, just given the picture that you sent me, there's hair everywhere on this creature. Is there hair everywhere on the face as well for yours?
She had hair everywhere except, like I said, you could see the blackness of her nose.
Okay.
So that's one of the differences between Pam's rendition and what I saw.
Okay.
So it wasn't overly hairy, but it was like thinner hair on the face. So it was just all covered. Even under, like around the eyes was, you know, was all hair. Definitely had some thick lashes from what I remember, but that nose was exposed.
Okay. And on the chin area there, would the length of the chin be appropriate for where the hair would fall?
Yeah.
That's kind of like
it wasn't whisker-like. It just was.
Okay.
It probably would have been like a short cropped beard type length hair on her chin, but her whole face was definitely covered in hair except the nose.
Okay.
So a few things I want to ask you on with the eyes here. I have them sunk pretty far back. Do you feel like they were coming out more?
No. I think they were sunk like that.
Okay. Yeah, because based off that image, this does look fairly similar in the depth we have them. As far as the almond shape, does that kind of look right?
I almost feel like they're slightly too close together.
Okay.
Like they should be like slightly away from the nose. I don't know. They almost seem more human-like, I guess, in that sense.
Yeah.
There you
Is
go.
that better? Okay.
Yes.
Let's try and
They were
work
more
that.
human-like, yeah.
I don't want to give her too much of that cheek back, but also there's.
There you go. Wow. Okay, that's eerie.
Okay, so I've been waiting for that moment to happen where this thing would kind of irk you, bug you out.
That's so eerie. I don't like that. Wow.
Oh no.
You've done your job.
Yeah.
All right.
I really have. That was what was so strange about her. Do you see how humanoid she looks? That was what was so strange about her.
Yeah. Whoa.
Okay. In a second here, when we get teeth in, we'll be able to put. I don't want to give you the worst moment of her, but I think we need that moment where she was growling.
That's fine.
Growling.
I don't mind you doing the teeth. I mean, because I feel like it's an important detail, so it's totally fine. But that in itself, just the placement of the, oh my gosh, wow.
That is pretty haunting.
That's really intense. I'm really amazed at how intense that is.
Yeah, it almost looks like a skull. I mean, I know that you're working from the flesh outwards and it has that smooth texture, but it seems like the proportion of a pirate skull.
It's really, yeah, it's very intense. That's deeply intense.
Towards the end of it, I'll put some some texture on there to give it that little bit of that light fur look you described.
Right.
As far as teeth, so we've got, we can go thinner.
Thinner, smaller. Okay, so okay, a little bit more, but like
Oops.
I do only remember 2 top canines, but everything else was in there was just jagged.
That's crazy.
So
like teeth are going to be, I mean, that's just horrifying. Like all these sharp teeth.
yeah, I'm just still flabbergasted by just as soon as you moved her eyes. Wow, I have chills looking at that. That's really amazing.
Yeah. And I'll make sure to get the interview off to you, Geaytan. Part 1 and part 2 will be coming out here this week. So I'll send those to you as well, Lisa. But, if you're drawing, maybe you have a chance to go back and listen to this as you're drawing still. Yes. And you'll hear more details as we go along.
That'd be super beneficial. This is another one of those things that can get a little cumbersome as far as detailing out, but I want to make sure we get these right. Did they have this? I have a kind of curve going to the teeth. Did it have that typical predatory curve, or
the predominant canines did? The other ones I really couldn't tell you because remember, she had her mouth clenched, and there just was the distinct zigzag. Like, here's what comes to mind. Okay, so I took a trip to, I think it was the Natural History Museum in Washington, D.C., and they had these really horrifying paintings of cannibals, and all of their teeth were sharpened to a point. It looked like that.
Okay.
I mean, they were perfectly shaped, perfectly uniform. So it pretty much would just, like those 2 canines, the 2 predominant canines looked animal-like. The rest of them looked like filed down human teeth that were just filed to a point.
Right, and you said kind of like Charlie Brown's shirt, so there was almost there was no gap between the bite.
Nope.
Yeah.
She had them clenched, real tight, and she was growling, or just making vocals. I really don't know what she was doing, but her mouth was in a grimace as far as I could tell. So it's just hard to tell. I really think she was enjoying scaring us, like I said. I think she
Right.
really enjoyed that. It was almost like she had an emotional reaction to seeing me with somebody else in that playhouse, and was pissed off, I think, for lack of a better term, and wanted to scare
Right.
us.
And
Was
just
there?
go ahead, Geaytan.
Oh, I'm just curious. Was there some kind of friendship developed to a degree, or that
Well,
maybe she
I don't
felt?
know. I mean, I think I almost feel like she knew that I was a child, and I think that she was a child. And when she grabbed me and she just kind of held me close and just was sort of talking, I think that was, I don't know if that was her way of trying to be friends, or, you know, I just feel like there's a couple of different possibilities. I think it's either that, either she identified me as a child and a potential playmate, because it was the same day that happened. Okay, so hours before that happened, um, a friend of my parents came over with their little girl who was like really painfully shy, and she didn't want to really do anything. She just wanted to be with her dad. And this playhouse, it wasn't our playhouse. It was a playhouse that was on another property in another neighborhood that was adjacent to our property. So I was trying to find a way to entertain this girl who was about my age, and I took her into the woods to the playhouse. And then we were sitting there, we're playing for a while. This thing had cut out windows, and the large creature whose head I never saw walked past, but I did see this broad back, you know, did kind of see from the waist down and buttocks, and this thing went by. So it was too big for me to even just see the head. And then here comes Blondie, and she's looking through the windows, and she sees the little girl first, and then she makes direct eye contact with me. And as soon as she did, I dove underneath this little table, and then she pretty much just stuffed her whole body kind of in the door, and then she rested her arms on top of the roof in a way where she could lower her head, and she was looking right at me, and she showed her teeth, and she started making a bunch of noise like she was growling, like she was pissed. And then that same day, so what happened was little girl who was in the corner peed her pants, got more hysterical, and I don't know what came over me, but I ended up pounding on her feet. So I ended up pounding on her feet, and I think I did it 3 distinct times, and I said, "Move." And she quit growling, and she kind of looked offended, and she walked off. She was gone. And so the little girl and I grabbed a hold of each other and ran out of there. And then her dad was in my backyard looking for her, and she was hysterical, and he asked me what happened, and I said, she got scared and peed herself. I didn't tell anybody what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, they left, and then I had this feeling come over me that hitting Blondie was a bad thing, and that I probably should go say I was sorry. So I went back out into the woods looking for her, and I just started talking. So I'm just talking, saying, "I'm sorry, you scared my friend." And then all of a sudden she was there, and that's something I can't explain about her. She was, the woods were empty one minute, and then the next minute she was there. And I don't know how. I didn't see anything in particular. She was just there. Just 1 minute there, before that, nothing. And so I sat down. We just kind of stood there looking at each other for a minute. And I sat down Indian style, and she basically mimicked me and sat down. And then that was when we really got a good look at each other. And so her eyes were very shifty, and she was kind of, sniffing and just kind of really looking at me and kind of looking me over. And I was talking to her and just, again, telling her that I was sorry for hitting her. And then she reached out, and that's this one, when she reached out, she didn't have fingers spread. It just looked like a mitt. And she hit me on the top of the head 3 times. And it was so heavy that my teeth clicked. And then she grabbed me, and I guess I blacked out, because when I woke up, we were on the ground. So it was the same day. We were on the ground. She had me kind of pinned to her side, and I'm laying there absolutely terrified. Like I said, just all these thoughts are going through my head. I'm never going to see my mother again. She's going to carry me off. Nobody's going to know what's going to happen. And I felt panic rise up in me. And then the strangest thing happened. And I really feel like it was probably divine intervention, but I felt a calming presence, and I felt and kind of heard a voice enter my mind, and it was an older voice, and I'm pretty sure it was a masculine voice that said that whatever you do, do not panic and lay still. So I just did that, and she was just kind of talking, just like I said, she was kind of shuffling her feet through leaf litter and just chattering away, and she was on her back. And I've had people try telling me that this was a submissive stance on her point. I mean, there's no way to know that for sure, but we were laying there for a pretty long time. And I remember the way that she kind of had me, my right arm started to go numb, or my left arm started to go numb, and my left side was starting to go numb. So I was getting really, really uncomfortable. And so I had to move. And so that was when I started to talk to her and, tell her, it's okay. But I had enough room to kind of wiggle and move. And that was it. So that was all the same day. All these events happened the same day. And then, my sister came in and into the woods calling for me. And that was when Blondie got pissed and kind of flipped it on the others, on her all fours, and took that protective stance over me. So there was a lot that happened that day. And then I only saw her one time, to my memory. I only saw her one other time after that happened. So.
What about sense, Lisa? I mean, in the realm that you're talking about, where you came back to apologize and then suddenly she was there, have you had any more moments? Let's just say that is a supernatural moment. Have you had any dreams that seem like they're not just dreams, or any moments where the woods seem like it's filled with their essence or presence?
With her?
Yeah.
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes it's really weird, and I don't even live in the same state, but sometimes I feel like I can sense her, like she's probably still alive. That's the only way I can describe it, but not where she's near me or anything. But it's interesting. My kids know this story, and she's almost 17, but I brought one of my daughters to Vermont with me for a visit, to visit my parents. And I remember, I think it was either while we were there, I think it was both. I think it was on the way there, and while we were there, she was like, well, maybe we'll see your friend. And I was like, what friend are you talking about? And she's like, the monster that you played with when you were little. And I just kind of look at her like, yeah, I don't know if I want to see her,
Right.
But even me describing events to just my kids, they were just like, okay, so you were kind of friends. Like, she thought you were her playmate. That was like, that's, like a kid's thinking on that situation of, she probably just thought that you were her friend. And, that's why those things happen. I have no idea. I mean, my theory is, yes, maybe that was one thing, but I also think it could just have been a case of, young predator animals will play with young prey animals until those instincts kick in.
Yeah.
It could have been a matter of that too. It could have been a matter of practicing on her part. I don't know. I really don't know.
Well, what do you mean practicing? That's an interesting thing to say.
With capturing something, like she kind of,
right.
Yeah, like she captured me. Wow, this is fun. Okay, I'm gonna lay down with my prey and just kind of chill.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know what the situation is, and I can't really pinpoint it. I just know at least it could have gone really bad.
What do you think of what we have so far?
Yeah.
Let me see the front view. So the bottom front teeth and the top front teeth touched.
So okay. no gapping, just exactly like Charlie Brown's shirt.
Yep. Do I have them too big in relation? Or is that about?
They were all uniform in the same size except for the two predominant canines.
Okay.
So I mean, when you do the cartoon, I mean, when you do teeth like what you're describing, it is almost like a very cartoonish look, where it's just like these scissor teeth, that look like they're there for shredding and shredding only.
Right.
Okay. Not a vegetarian.
No. Nope. Nothing.
That's some strong kale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. It's just so interesting to watch this whole thing and how quickly you can rearrange a witness's detail, because you know, to have a piece of paper and a pencil, it takes a little bit of time to rearrange this, and it's no less impressive when you watch the likes of Alex Whitcomb do it at all. But it is something that adds a new depth, no pun intended, to this. And the fact is, Lisa, is that you know, if all goes right, this will be printed up, and I'll go to the factory and film it happening, and we'll get this eventually off to you so you can, you know, show people
Yeah.
if you want to.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
not your
was
kids.
talking with one of my daughters about that, and I was like, yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna feel about that. I think sometimes it'll be cool, and other times I'll probably throw a towel on top of it. I'm like, okay, not today. You know?
Right, right.
Depending on how
Yeah.
what my
Well,
mood.
you know what I have is I have a what's called a fear box, and it's in my case it's a little Altoid tin that I have duct tape around, and so anything that I'm freaked out about, I'll stick inside that little box, and I know it's there, and you know, it's not as though I'm not facing my fear. It just I don't have to look directly into it every day.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I still have days like that where the subject of her will come up, and I'll just be like, I don't want to talk about that today. Just depending on how I'm feeling, because um, that was that experience. I think it's just led to explaining a lot about how that shaped my worldview, I think. Um, so I think when there's times if I feel really vulnerable in particular about things, um, it's not something that like I want to talk about. It's interesting how that works. It's helped tremendously, especially to be in contact with other white eyewitnesses that have had similar experiences. Has definitely helped a lot. But like I said before, when I first started talking about this, and I talked with Vic Cundiff, I was on the phone with him for 7 hours one day just talking about this before I even did his show, and most of that was him just validating what I had seen, and him letting me know that I didn't imagine it and that I wasn't crazy, which was what I needed.
Have you given your testimony um, over to Linda Godfrey?
No, I know of Linda Godfrey, but I've never spoken with her. I've spoken with people that have done research with her, but not her.
Right, right. Yeah, she was one of the first guests that we had on here, and I know that she's been uncovering similar type things for a while. You know, as far as the testimony of people that have seen, let's just say this is a werewolf variety of some kind, there's a lot of people don't know just how many people have seen these things, and it's a fair amount. I mean, I would put them in almost the same category of people seeing ghost or seeing Bigfoot. There's a lot. It just on another level of crazy for you know, for the witness. But I've spoken to at least two people, friends that have had witnesses here. One of them I interviewed was a guy that saw a werewolf type creature near the town of Silverton, Oregon. It was seen twice in the same area, but also in the same area where there's giant orange lights that have been seen, and a lot of UFO activity. So do you think there's any link at all between lights, UFOs, Bigfoot, and this phenomena?
I don't know. I mean, I would think so. What that could possibly be, I have no idea. But I mean, the place where this happened, you know, like I told you before, it's known, the area is known as the Bennington Triangle. It was mentioned in David Paulides' 411, the Eastern edition.
Gotcha.
Lots of people have disappeared. There's been sightings of something called the Bennington Monster, UFO sightings, just really strange phenomenon. And it's been like that for years. So, and it's a very strange place. There's a very strange feeling to it. I don't get back home often. I may be going this September. The last time I went was about 2 years ago. But it's very uniquely its own place. Definitely has its own mystery.
Hmm.
Has its own local legends. It has a very strange feeling to it. So that's where, but that's where
Hmm.
this happened, and I had some other events
Right.
happen.
And what do you
So
think, real quick, what do you think about is happening here in the rendering with the teeth now? Is he getting closer?
yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
yes.
I just wanted to make sure that you're getting some love there, Geaytan.
Yeah, no, it's good. This is kind of it's really easy for me to get into kind of this,
Mhm.
you know,
Oh,
zone where I don't see
sure.
anything.
Now, what you had to do is you scrubbed your original mold, right? And now you're going in with a different tool.
Correct. So
Okay.
for the technique I was using before, I generally use for, you know, for a less patterned tooth arrangement, whereas this is very, you know, as she described, it's just got that very inset look.
Right.
I felt
Look.
like this was going to be a better way for me to capture that. So
No, yeah, it actually looks like blades on a chainsaw, or it looks like it means business here. And
yeah,
why don't we, in the next 5 or 10 minutes here, we'll go ahead and start winding things and wrapping them out. What I would want to try maybe, Geaytan, is having you
yeah,
pull out for a little bit here.
yeah.
And then Lisa, I want you to spend the next 5 minutes here helping him. He's going to have to use his imagination to do, the next portion of this here. Help
Mhm.
him understand more of what he can do to get the essence of what you saw.
Yeah. Okay,
Oh,
let me do a quick
okay.
mirror and
Well,
weld so we have the teeth.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the best way to describe that.
Let's just start with the head going down. Anything
Okay.
on the head that, besides the teeth and the eyes and the ears, what else do we need to do?
Okay. So, like, the hair on the top of the head was thicker.
It
The
came down
tops of the
lower towards the brow ridge.
um, yeah, or like there was that almost like that distinct sort of hairline
Hmm.
that people have, where it was a little bit thicker
Like
on
a
the
like
head.
a widow's peak.
Kind of almost like, I think if we're going to talk Widow's Peak, probably a lot like Eddie Munster style
Uh,
Widow's Peak.
Okay, gotcha.
Um, but and then the hair on the face was short and fine.
Okay, so hair everywhere, but it gets shorter as it gets closer to the nose.
Yes, and then
Okay.
there's no hair on. It's just the front of the nose. So just where the nostrils are and
Mm-hmm.
the front of the nose, that
Mm-hmm.
was bare and that was black.
Gotcha.
But there was hair on the bridge and hair on the sides.
Did, did the nose have a pretty distinct end point where there's hair here and there's like almost, you could almost see a line where it was that black?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Got you. And the nose was specifically canine in its shape. There was no hooded to it like a hooded nose.
No.
Okay, so
That was definitely, that was probably the most canine thing about her, was that nose.
okay, and not a lot of wrinkles or wear to the face, so not a lot of
No,
skin folds.
nope, no skin folds.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And then the ears, we talked about the tufts coming off the ears a little bit more, hair everywhere on the head except down to the nose. The chin itself, did it have hair flowing down? You said it had, like a groomed beard. Did I hear you right on the chin? Okay.
Yeah, but like short, like a short, kind of goatee type crop, like close to the face.
Gotcha.
It was a
Did,
little thicker. It was a little thicker on the lower jaw, a little bit thicker on the lower jaw than the
so
rest of the face.
does this need to come down a little bit?
Does the jaw need
What?
thicker?
No. It's perfect. It just needs the hair on it.
Okay. Which kind of gives it that female look to it. The less prominent the jawline.
Mm-hmm.
Did it have black lips? Like, did it have, if you look at a big dog, they have the big black lips that coat.
Yeah, they were thin and black. So the
Gotcha.
nose and the lips were black.
Okay, so it had that darker shading to the lips and whatnot. Okay, let's move on. Unless you have any questions more about the head.
I was going to ask, in the picture, we kind of have almost a distinct line here where it seems like the fur came to a stop.
Kind of, yeah.
Is
Around the lips it was thinner, but it was definitely hair.
Okay, would you say, is this line a good appropriation of maybe where it's pretty less furry?
Yes, and like underneath her eyes, like that, the eye socket, the lower eye socket was a little hairier.
Okay.
Too.
Interesting.
Eyelid. Oh, I know we've talked about this a little bit, but I want to get clearer details on that tuft of hair. Are we talking about like it almost comes almost like sideburns coming out and over?
For the ears?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time visualizing.
Okay, so if you have a cat, like the top of their ears, okay, up towards the point. Okay, on the inner ear up towards the point, there were tufts of hair.
So does that hair come out like this? I'll have to go look at images. Okay, so it kind of overhangs the ear a little bit.
It did. It was real fine, but it was definitely there.
I'll definitely try and capture that in a more delicate way, but that'll be good for my memory's sake.
Okay. There you go. That gives a whole new type of feel. Just adding that little detail.
And she did have lashes. So I do remember that about her. She had lashes.
Now, did these lashes have any kind of a curl to them? Did they go like down?
They really did sort of look a little bit feminine.
Okay.
I mean, not over exaggeratedly feminine, but, there was a little bit of a curl to them.
Wow. And the lashes were on the bottom and the top?
I only remember the top ones.
Okay.
I'm not really sure about the bottoms.
Yeah. But again, a feminine detail for sure. Interesting. Okay. How are things looking on the face?
It looks great.
Okay. And
it's
again,
really kind of scary. I mean, wow. It's real eerie, honestly, but it's beautiful. I mean, it really looks like her.
Okay. And now let's talk about the breast, because I want to make sure that we understand those, that those are proportionate to what you saw. You said that they kind of look like prepubescent female breasts. Is that right? Okay. Did you see a nipple?
No.
Okay.
It was covered in fur. So it was just the thighs of breasts under the fur.
Okay. And at no point did you see, since it's a female, there wouldn't be a series of maybe other breasts underneath it.
Or under nipples, or not that I noticed. I just noticed the two.
Right. Okay. So that's the human quality pushing out. Okay. And would there be thicker hair across the breast too?
It was, she had, the hair on the chest wasn't as long as everywhere else, but it might have been like maybe about an inch or two thick on the chest.
But thicker on the back than the chest, the hair on the back? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe half the length of the back.
Yeah.
Okay. And then again on the biceps there, was there no hair on the upper bicep arms? Was it just sparse?
No, there was hair.
Okay, so covered in hair?
Yeah,
okay.
Everything. She was the only thing that was not covered in hair was her nose.
Okay.
Everything.
All right. Everything had hair on it except the nose, but it was the amount that wasn't. Gotcha. Okay. So would you say that the arm hair was as long as it is on the forearms right now, and the back of the?
The back of it was. Like, so the back, the
Mm-hmm.
tricep had longer hair
Mm-hmm.
than the bicep did.
Okay.
So just to be clear, what I'm going to do is, you know, where I'm not styling the hair is going to be kind of a marker for me, where I'm going to put a little bit of texture of hair.
Gotcha.
But I'm viewing what you see with no tech, where I haven't touched with any texturing of hair, is
Mm-hmm.
where I'm kind of assuming the least, like the lowest layer of hair is, like
Yeah,
the
Is-
shortest.
there was hair and it was kind of thick, but where you do have hair now were the thicker spots of hair.
Okay,
It's a-
perfect.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, and the claws coming off of it, were the claws present outside of the hair on the hands? Would you just see
Yes.
black claws?
No, they were dark brown and they were
Mhm.
kind of curled.
Okay, gotcha. So no fingers, just what, brown claws.
Sounds
That's
almost
what I remember.
bear-like. Is that
I just don't remember fingers on her. That's all. I
Mhm.
just
Okay.
remember fingers.
Interesting.
is
Okay.
this coming like? I mean, I know we're pretty far off from having detail on the claws here, but is this pretty close?
Yeah,
To,
I mean they came out and they kind of curled down.
Mhm.
okay.
My question is given all of the human qualities here of this creature, would it stand to reason that it would have a regular thumb claw and you didn't see it, Lisa?
That's possible. That's really possible.
I mean, I don't know how you feel about seeing the thumb up on the arm, but I'm wondering,
Maybe down here
would
is
you
the.
would you rather see it closer as a hand thumb, so it gives it that human quality?
I'm kind of fine with the way that it is, but like I said, I just don't
Okay,
remember the details.
gotcha.
I
Right.
All
have
right, well then we'll leave that up to you, Geaytan.
Yeah.
Okay, and then how about going down from the legs to the knees? Is the ratio of the legs to the upper body appropriate? Is it
Mm-hmm. Yep.
everything is as you can best remember it?
Yep.
Okay, and it's very lean. There's no real girth to it except for the stance of it, which is, you know, I'm here to kick some butt kind of stance.
Mhm.
But okay, and the feet themselves, we didn't get much detail on that, so that's up to the artist. And then there's a little bit of a tail nub coming off the back there. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, like I said, I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember a tail or do remember a tail, so it's fine either way. I mean, it was
Okay. Okay. All right. And any last comments at all on your end, Lisa, before we leave Geaytan to interpret this?
No, just that you know, she did have some thick hair on the thighs, but it wasn't as thick as the lower legs.
Okay.
Other than that, no. It really, it's kind of uncanny how much that looks like what I saw.
Right. Well, I mean, all we really have is you to tell us if this is close. We have
Right.
no other reference point.
Yeah.
So I think as kind of a question that's coming up to me, and oh, weird, it's saying my internet connection is unstable. I've never seen that before. The legs, I know it's a little hard because you probably saw her, you know, just moving, and so it's hard to really know what a standstill image would look like. But what I might do, unless you have, you know, direct guidance for me, but the current pose of the legs is a little unnatural. So I might give her a little bit more of a bend when I go to pose her, or you know, something like that, unless, you know.
Yeah. That seems about right. And like, I mean, I don't know if it was the thick hair, but it was like, it just seemed like her legs were like there was less of a gap and they were just closer together.
Okay.
But it was hair. So I don't know if the hair
I see.
made it seem like there was no gap or not.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Right. I was going to ask too, is posing it in general with some kind of stance. Is that something that you're thinking of doing instead of taking it out of that neutral stance to give it a moment in action where it is doing something and therefore it needs to pose differently? Or what will you do with the pose? Will you keep it as it is, or?
Yeah, so what I would like to do is just based off of kind of the recounting you've given, I would like to put, I'm not sure yet eh, if to capture the fact that it looks like, it seems like she can move on all fours well, like if we want her on like one hand on the ground, leaning forward,
Well, isn't
with,
that's something you mentioned too, Lisa, is that at one point it went down into a track pose where it posed itself with a hand down before it went on all fours?
It was both hands down.
Both hands
both
down. Gotcha.
hands.
Mhm.
Okay.
But I almost think they were. I don't remember them being flat. I just remember. I mean, she was real close to me, so it was almost kind of like she completely overshadowed me. But she was in that stance, so she was in the stance where like her arms were straight and they were down, and she kind of had her chest, puffed out, and it was like her legs were bent into a crouch, like she was ready to spring.
Is that so with that description, I'm kind of visualizing, not completely, but a little bit like a silverback gorilla
Yeah,
in
more or less. I think so.
in that stance.
Right, which would make sense for what witnesses describe, where they describe, Sasquatch and Dogman both having that loping kind of gorilla type quadrupedal pose
Do it,
when
yeah.
they're running, where it looks weird when they run, almost unnatural, definitely not like a dog would run.
Mhm.
But since the long arms are there and the legs are shorter, it would have that kind of uh, quarterbacking type of look to the pose. But I'm going to let you find out how to do that. That sounds way too complicated. After all this work here to cut it apart and repose it, I'm like, just be happy with what you got, man.
That's kind of, I don't know, poses bring so much more life to them.
Yeah. And you've described moments too. That's why I'll send him the rest of the interview here, Lisa, so he can hear about these moments, like when it came to the treehouse and its arms were on top of the fort or the treehouse, and all of those little details there will go into an attitude and a moment.
I kind of want to get her in the process of going from one standing stance to the crouching stance. It's kind of how I'm visualizing, just because I feel like that'll give her the life that the life of that moment that you described. Hopefully is what I will try for it. But obviously,
Okay.
I've got some polishing to do on what you've described, and then from that, yeah, I'll be taking it and essentially kind of slicing it up and reposing it. So
Yeah. Okay. And so what I'm going to do is I will keep in touch with you and Cameron, and find out where you are if you have any questions. If you want to talk to me or Lisa again, just let me know and we can work something out. But the rest is up to you. And if you think of anything along the way here, Lisa, and looking at this, I've taken a couple videos and photographs while he's working, and I'm going to send those to you.
Okay.
And if you want to, you can say, hey, I was thinking about this part. I think you may want to try this, and I'll shoot those off to him.
Okay.
And other than that, I'm just waiting for a final rendered project, and then I'll head out and go shoot some video of this factory where this thing's going to be shot out of a digital printer. So pretty cool.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks again, Lisa. And boy, exciting stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
yeah, thanks,
All
Lisa.
right.
It's fun to talk to you and hear about your experience. So
Yeah. Thank you for taking the time to do this.
yeah.
One. All right. Back with me again is Lisa Lycan. Hello, Lisa.
Hi. How are you?
Good. So it's been roughly 48 hours, I think, or so since we last sat down with the 3D artist. The rendering was done, and it was about a 2-hour session. We went over the details again about Blondie. How was the overall experience for you?
Honestly, it was kind of a mixed bag of emotions. It really kind of filled me with some feelings on the negative side, definitely some anxiety, a little bit of dread to see her kind of come to life. And at the same time, it was pretty fascinating and kind of exciting to see her come to life. So it's definitely a mix, a combination of those feelings.
Yeah, and the overall experience of working with some new sponsors here for the show, as far as working with someone who's working with, I think it's called a ZBrush live here, was I'd never seen it done before, so I was kind of getting lost in what he was doing there. What did
I
you
thought
think of
that was
that
great.
process?
It really was great. I thought that was, honestly, it really felt like it was way much more easier to be able to describe and have him just do it. And you know, like being able to say, okay, just giving him, you know, instructions and being able to see him accurately bring things to life was absolutely amazing for me. I don't know if everybody's like that who does that kind of artwork, but he was pretty amazing. He was very easy to work with. I thought that was great.
Yeah, it was the first time that I'd sat down with him. I'd met him once during a Zoom meeting, and then the owner of the company said, "I think this is the guy." And I said, "Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at his work here. Why wouldn't he be?" So
Right.
you haven't seen, except you watch what happened on screen
Mhm.
along with everybody else here, but you really haven't seen the finished product. And I thought, well, I could just send her a screenshot, but I'd really like your opinion here over the final render, and then we'll talk about what's going to happen here. So let me share my screen, and we'll insert a drum roll here. And let me go make sure I know how to share the screen. There we go. Okay. So if I bring it up.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Um, Okay, so let me, can you see the full thing, or is my little share screen, can you see everything?
Yeah, I'm floored by that. Actually, hang on a second. Come see this. My oldest daughter is in the room with me. She just got back from a trip, and that's what she looks like. She knows the story of me and Blondie,
Wow.
but you're hearing her now. But I really, that's what she looks like. I mean, he nailed it.
That's pretty
Okay, so I mean,
Fantastic.
that's music to my ears. It's going to be music to his ears, because there were certain parts of Blondie that you didn't
Right.
recognize or couldn't
Which was her
recall.
back mostly. I never saw her backside ever. Um,
Okay, so I have something else I want to share with you here. Let me back out of this screen here, because it doesn't just end
oh,
there.
really?
It actually goes deeper. Let me go ahead and bring this up. Okay, so now with this, watch this. We can actually see what details here exist as far as hair flow is
Right.
concerned. And we can reposition her a little bit, I think. Let me see if I can turn her face around this way here.
Holy moly. Look at the
So I think,
teeth.
yeah, I mean, it's a full three-dimensional thing that we can, we can appreciate from
Wow.
close and far away, but pretty wild that you can do that. In fact, we'll get rid of this here, and I think I've got one more version of this here that I went ahead and I did a little tutorial. So let me bring that up. Now this is everything as we turn here,
Mm-hmm.
and of course he repositioned it here. What do you think of how he positioned it?
It's amazing. It's really amazing. I mean, okay, so I'm having those same feelings. Like, it really is chilling to me to see it, and really still kind of scary in some ways. Like, it really kind of hits that inner child in a way in me of just that fear. But at the same time, it's really beautiful. Um, it's definitely giving me feelings of mixed emotions again. He did an amazing job. It's absolutely beautiful. and
Okay.
scary at the same time. He did an amazing
That is the
job.
one word I wanted to say, is that we never really, I never didn't come across how scary Blondie is.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah.
really. And it
Yeah.
was so funny. What made it worse was, so I shared some of this with my boyfriend, who
Hmm.
he's had his own encounters. He's a very private person. He works, in the corporate sector, so he has chosen to never come forward with his details, but with his encounter. But he's had dogman encounters in the past, and when I showed him what she looked like, his reaction was like he was more horrified, I think, than I was. But I was, I've had this mental picture of her for years. And he even said, he was like, I didn't realize how terrifying she was. And I said, yeah, she was really terrifying. But I could hear the fear in his voice. And then he started telling me all the scenarios that could have happened, if things went wrong. And I was like, thanks. I don't need to think about that when I go to bed tonight, because it was something that I used to think about for years of, that scenario could have gone so wrong in so many different ways. If I
Right.
made a wrong move, if I did something to make her mad, anything, things could have definitely ended differently. But I'm utterly amazed looking at this. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, it's so human like, but so monstrous. And
Yeah, and that was what was so weird about her, and
yeah.
honestly very disturbing. The memories were very disturbing. And I mean, for a long time, like I think I may have told you, I doubted that it actually happened. I thought maybe it was
Mhm.
dreams I had had. Um, but then as I grew older and really thought about it more, because of how puzzling the whole thing was, I started to have more and more memories. And especially once I started to talk about it to someone, I had more and more memories and more details came back.
Okay, so the company again is called Metallic Monsters. They're new sponsors to Strange Brow Radio. They're out of Issaquah, Washington. You can go look them up at metallicmonsters.com. And our gift for you for going, the distance here is you will get a copy of this 3D printed model. Now, I don't know what size this is. That hasn't been determined yet, but I'm going to try to get to the factory the day that this is printed up.
Okay.
And then I will put everything up on YouTube. But this will be available to the general public too. So if you're interested in taking a look at what Lisa had described and you want your own Blondie, there's nothing stopping you from going to the modeling shop, picking up some khaki or bone white, and painting away your own version of everything you've heard about here, including yourself, Lisa.
Wow.
So it's been a real pleasure to do this. You're one of one, so this is pretty new territory for me.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. I think I don't know. I really do have kind of a mixed bag of emotions just looking at her. I really do. In some ways, it's very almost healing to me, and it kind of is giving me a sense of closure in a way to be able to see her like this. Like I would definitely never want to see her in the flesh again, but even to be able to see a replica of her
Hmm.
and just, he did an amazing job. I mean, I'm absolutely just
Yeah,
amazed.
yeah, and so you've heard it here first. If someone wants to have their own healing by recreating, and I forget what the military term is for, I think it's immersive healing. If you want to immerse yourself back through the trauma here and get your own metallic monster. They're not necessarily metal. They're also come out in resin and different types of, I guess, rare earth 3D prints as well, silver, pewter, all those things. But
Yeah.
yeah, I will let you know more about this, and I will give your praise to the artist, who I'm sure is waiting to hear back.
Oh
And
yeah, please do. I
yeah.
mean, it's perfect. It really, he did an amazing job, especially the face, the shape of the face, the shape of the eyes. I mean, that's, like I said, I don't remember the hands,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been trying to, the last couple of days I've really been thinking
Mm-hmm.
about it. I've been trying to remember any details about the hands if I could, but it just wasn't, my
Mm-hmm.
my encounters were, they were intense, but they were kind of brief, close encounters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it didn't happen over a long stretch of time. It was just like most of it happened in one day. So obviously there's details that I wouldn't remember, you know,
Yeah.
and
And
that's,
the hair flow was something that we'd talked before about,
oh
because
yeah.
I'd mentioned to him how important it was to get that part right. And he said, well,
Yeah.
we'll have to go for bigger shapes and make them look like they're individuals. And so
Yeah.
that's what he did.
Yeah. I mean, it's really amazing. I'm really grateful that you guys gave me the opportunity to do this because it's really, like I said, it's kind of a sort of healing feeling to be able to see it
Hmm.
in a three-dimensional way, and instead of, you know, instead of in my mind, I think, you know.
Yeah.
um
And now looking at it, I mean, you had this experience. This is what you
I
saw.
know. I know. um it's pretty crazy at times, you know.
Hmm.
It's weird. I get a sense of detachment sometimes. It almost seems like that happened to somebody else. I
And we
think
should
because it's
mention
so,
too, Lisa, that you and I had tried to talk over the last year, and you're
yeah.
super busy. Our schedules are different, and
Mhm.
I just kind of fought to get this interview with you, and it was just by timing that we got these new sponsors
Yeah.
here. I was like, I think this is the one. So you're the
Yeah,
first.
it really has been. But you know, you also influenced me to write. So just so you know, I'm writing now about this experience, and I do actually have an editor who's part of the Bigfoot community
Okay.
and very enthusiastic and knows my story. So I don't know how long it's going to take, but she suggested, because I threw so much information at her, she suggested that I kind of slow down a little bit and maybe just focus on one major thing at a time. So
Hmm.
I'm basically just trying to focus on the experiences I had with Blondie and that impact, and pretty much how I ended up in this community to begin with, because
Hmm.
a lot of those memories came back because I started researching Bigfoot back in 2002, I want to say. And you know, I had flashes of her in my mind for a long time. And you know, just the more I started to get involved with talking to people and looking into things, the stronger those memories were coming back. And then it got to a point where I realized that what I had dealt with wasn't a Bigfoot, it was something else. And so that led me into a whole journey of, you know, trying to find out what it was that I'd encountered. Um, because I think that really shaped my worldview too, especially because we are taught that there are no monsters, and then
Hmm.
when you run into one, that really changes a whole lot for you. Really, really does.
Yeah, your story is so powerful because you did face the monster under the bed, let's say, and
Yeah,
it had these human type attributes to it that
definitely.
monsters aren't supposed to have.
Yeah, especially her eyes. That's something, and that's something that still really baffles me. And like I said, there were times when, you know, I remember looking at her, especially when she came back to the or when she came to the playhouse, and when she and I made eye contact, her eyes looked very human. I mean, you could see the cornea; they just look like dark brown eyes. But later on in the afternoon, after she'd snatched me up and we were laying there, when she heard my sister's voice and she went into the defensive, you know, killer mode, for lack of a
Hmm.
better term, it was like her iris just filled up the whole space, and they were nothing but black eyes, which is something I can't get over. And like I said, that image, the image of her eyes and her
Hmm.
teeth, was something that I had nightmares about for a long time during childhood. That really stuck with me.
Yeah. When you described the teeth, it sounded so surreal the way you described it, like saw blades on a saw. And
Yeah.
that took us a little while to get that, and you can see that in the YouTube video that is available now along with this. So it's present in there. I don't know if I can zoom in or not on this or not, but
Yeah.
the teeth are the teeth are plainly there. They're hard to
Yeah.
miss. Yeah. Yeah, very cool. Well, I will, and as I said, I'll get in touch with the artist and tell them that you approve, and I have your information. And as soon as I can get one in my hand, I'll get two of them, one for me and one for you, and
Okay.
uh, Blondie will be populating the earth here.
Yeah, and please give him my sincerest thank yous, and I
Yeah.
really appreciate that you guys have done this. It means a lot to me, honestly. I really feel like it's, like I said, I think it's something, there's something healing about this, definitely.
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic news. All right, Lisa, have a good evening, and we'll be in touch.
Okay.
All right, very impressive from pointy ear to claw. I hope that you liked watching that as much as we like doing it for you. It really was a labor of love for everybody involved in this process. It caught the 3D rendering artists off guard via the detail that Lisa was able to describe of Blondie. And we want to offer this up to you, the listening audience, just the same. And I know that we're going to comp one more Sasquatch witness. And I haven't chosen who that will be, but if you have seen the head of a Sasquatch, and we're going to make it into a bust, a figurine from the shoulders up, let's say, and you have very specific detail about seeing the face of a Sasquatch, I would love to talk to you. You can get in touch with me at strangebrowradio@gmail.com. But beyond that, we want to offer this up as a service. This doesn't happen freely. There is a definite cost to hiring an artist and printing these up. So the bigger the model, of course, the bigger the cost. I know what the price was to do this, and I want to get an idea how close we are as far as your own hopes to be a part of something like this. I'm happy to stick also with Alex to have you do a show with us to have things drawn, but I think Alex is going to start his own podcast where he does drawings with witnesses on camera as well. So when that happens, I'll announce that, and hopefully we can get this going as well with the 3D artist here at metallicmonsters.com. And there will be a promo code coming up. And oh, how sweet it would be if you could order your own little metallic monster with a Strange Brow Radio promo code. You can do that over at the Feral by Aaron Etsy shop. Go do that. Mention that you heard about her stuff via Strange Brow Radio, and in your package will be an extra bonus item. We just had a listener the other day get his little bonus item, which we call a hagstone. They're very interesting beach stones with holes, or a hole in them, sought after by stone collectors. So that's the kind of stuff that would arrive as well, and other little goodies. Hey, if you want to be a guest on the show beyond maybe seeing a Bigfoot, however you're geared, you can do that and get in touch with me at strangebrowradio@gmail.com. Go check out that new video we did, for crying out loud. Power Spots and Forgotten Cultures with Marcia K. Moore, repatriation artists, and our own Power Spot, Eero Wolfnosen Power Spot Betty. She's lived in a power spot or two. She gave one hell of a presentation, and you'd be a fool not to watch that. And the amazing Jill Remensnyder, the brains behind the upcoming documentary, along with the director, her husband, Brett Eichenberger, coming out 2021. The trailer is up over at Strange Brow Radio YouTube channel. That's it for me. Of course, I will see you in the trees.